22, spent most of my time in university and non-profits. Always believed men had it easier, even when they said otherwise. Not in a man-hater way, just logic said so. Always told men whining about marriage they were just bitter losers. Preached, real men raise the kid, DNA doesn't matter, to anyone who would listen. My dad's the example I pointed to, quiet, hardworking, loves mum, took care of me and my younger brother like we were gold. I grew up thinking I knew exactly how relationships worked. Thought marriage was about love, trust, and choosing each other every day. Never thought I'd watch ours blow apart from the inside. Flashback to a barbecue when I was 10. A family friend looks at my brother and laughs. "Who's this handsome boy?" "He doesn't look like you, Dad." Everyone chuckles. Mum says, "Takes after my side," without missing a beat. Dad forces a smile, but I'm too young to clock it. I remember waking up one night to muffled voices in the kitchen. Mum saying, "You're imagining things," in that sharp way that ends an argument. I roll over, think nothing of it. There were other moments too, but they were easy to ignore. A family holiday photo where Dad's hand on my brother's shoulder looks stiff, like it's posed. The way Mum would shut down any talk about who the kids take after if it lingered too long. As a kid, you take your cues from the adults. If they act normal, you believe it's normal. My brother's 15 now, looks a little different than me and Dad. Darker skin tone, curlier hair, sharper cheekbones, but not cartoonishly different, still plausible. Whenever someone joked about it, Mum laughed. "Oh, he takes after my side." Sometimes she even pulled out old sepia photos of some distant Mediterranean relatives. People dropped it instantly. I never questioned it. Why would I? Mum and Dad have been solid for decades. Dad never so much as raised an eyebrow. Old school, loyal to a fault, never the type to get a paternity test. Loved us both equally, coached my brother's soccer games, helped with homework. If anyone hinted at, "Does he look like you?" Dad would brush it off. "He's my son, that's all that matters." Fast forward to this year. My brother gets hit with some nasty health issue, needs a specific treatment. Hospital runs routine genetic compatibility testing for family donors. The panel checks for the closest biological matches in immediate family. Nothing unusual, just standard protocol. They test Dad, Mum, me. Doctor walks in with this frozen expression. Dad isn't a match. At all. Not even biologically related. No, maybe the lab messed up, wiggle room. The medical report is undeniable. The doctor keeps glancing between us like he's holding a grenade, asks if we want to speak privately. Mum says, "It's fine, we're family, say it here." The nurse suddenly finds something very interesting on her clipboard. The doctor clears his throat, voice shaky. "Mr. Dad's name. You're not a biological match." The words just hang there. No one moves. For a second, I honestly think Dad didn't hear him, because he's not reacting. But then I notice his hands, fingers curling in slow, tight fists on his knees. His jaw shifts like he's chewing glass. Mum laughs. This thin, brittle laugh that sounds like she borrowed it from someone else. "Oh, come on, that's ridiculous. You must have mixed up the files." Her eyes keep flicking from Dad to the floor to the doctor, like she's looking for a trapdoor to fall through. The nurse still won't make eye contact. Dad doesn't look at anyone. He's staring at this spot on the wall, like if he keeps it in focus, he won't explode. The doctor starts fumbling with his clipboard, says something about genetic incompatibility and 0 probability of paternity. My stomach goes cold. It's not just a mismatch. They're saying Dad and my brother share nothing. No strands of DNA, no connection, except the one we all thought was there. Dad's voice is so quiet, I almost miss it. "Run it again." The doctor nods, but the way he does it, like he knows it'll come back the same. Mum instantly jumps in. It must be a hospital error. Her voice is just a little too high, eyes darting. I feel this knot form in my stomach. The ride home is dead silent. I can hear Mum's breathing in the passenger seat, sharp and shallow, like she's been running. Dad's hands stay locked on the wheel, knuckles pale, eyes never leaving the road. I want to say something, anything, but every sentence in my head sounds like a lie. The next few days are a blur. Dad quietly asks for a private talk with Mum behind closed doors. I hear muffled voices escalating, then silence. Mum comes out, blotchy-eyed, says nothing. Dad sleeps on the couch that night. Over the next week, her story changes. First says maybe she was assaulted years ago but didn't want to talk about it. My stomach drops, but something feels off. Under pressure, she admits it was an affair, Consensual. Met some guy while Dad was working night shifts. Kept seeing him for months. Knew there was a chance my brother wasn't Dad's. Never said a word. Buried it so deep, she almost believed her own cover story. When Dad pressed, she finally gave details. Said she met him at a bar near her office. A tall, athletic, black guy named Darius from out of town. Worked construction on a big project a couple blocks away. He'd come in with his crew after work, all swagger and easy smiles. Says he was funny, confident, made me feel alive. The first night he bought her a drink, complimented her shoes. The next week, he remembered her order without asking. At first, she told herself it was just flirting. Then it was just drinks. Then it wasn't just drinks anymore. She admits she kept seeing him when Dad was working nights. Thursdays at first, then Tuesdays, then whenever he was in the mood. Claims they never talked about marriage. Says she didn't lie, just didn't bring it up. Let slip he was married too, like that somehow made it more acceptable. Insists it wasn't serious, just something fun while it lasted. But when the project wrapped and Darius moved away, she already knew there was a chance she was pregnant. Never tried to find him, never told him. Says it was to protect the family, but it sounds more like protecting herself from consequences. Dad asks if she's sure he doesn't know. She shakes her head instantly. No, and I'm not going to tell him. Last she heard, he's in another state with his wife and 2 little girls. Dad's mouth tightens like he wants to ask more, but doesn't. For a second, I almost feel sorry for her. Then I remember she had over a decade to come clean and didn't. A couple nights later, I wake up for water, hear voices from the kitchen. Dad, low but sharp. I gave you everything. Mum, I was lonely. Dad, and you let me raise another man's son. Mum tries to spin it. You're not a victim, you're a father. Part of me wanted to jump in and back her up. Isn't that what I'd always believed? That real men step up regardless. The little activist in my head was already drafting a thread about how DNA doesn't erase years of love and care, how walking away now would be abandoning a child. I could feel myself reaching for the talking points, not because they made perfect sense in this moment, but because they were familiar, safe. She had this whole philosophy ready, like she'd rehearsed it for years. What matters is who's there every day, not some man who vanished. Blood is just biology. Love is the real DNA. Every time Dad opened his mouth, she'd cut in with some neat, self-contained quote. She wasn't just defending herself, she was defending the whole idea that what she did wasn't even wrong. Like if she repeated it enough, it would stop being a betrayal and start sounding noble. I froze in the hall, heart racing, feeling sick. My brain instantly went into damage control. Tried to frame it like I would in any argument. The child's innocent, relationships are complicated, people make mistakes. I even caught myself thinking maybe Dad should just get over it, like staying angry would somehow make it worse. I felt dirty realizing I was using the same talking points I'd used online to dismiss men in this exact position. Dad just sat there, listening. He didn't yell, didn't throw anything, just looked at the floor. Mum was crying, saying, "But you raised him, you're his real dad." The quiet that followed was worse than any shouting. The next morning, I tried to hold on to my beliefs. I told Dad, "But you are his dad. DNA isn't everything." He looked at me for a long time and said, "That's easy to say when you've never been lied to for half your life. If you're reading this, seriously, what would you do? Walk away and be branded a cold-hearted man who abandoned his kid? Stay, swallow the lie, and spend the rest of your life paying for it, literally and emotionally?" Honestly, it kind of looks like both are dead ends to me. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I still kept telling myself this wasn't as bad as it looked. Relationships survive worse, right? Men cheat and get forgiven all the time, so maybe it's just our turn to forgive. I kept thinking about how much harder it is for women to raise kids alone, like that justified her not telling him. I told myself it was practical. Truth is, I just didn't want to put my dad in the same box as all the angry men I'd argued with online. I wondered why Mum didn't tell him when it happened. She said she didn't want to lose the marriage and the financial stability Dad gave. Translation, she wanted to have her cake and eat it too, I guess. Meanwhile, my brother started changing. Wouldn't say much, but I'd catch him staring at himself in the mirror longer than usual, Googling things like, how to tell what ethnicity you are. I found a scrap of paper in the bin with a different surname written over and over, like he was trying it on for size. He even asked me once, half joking, if I tracked him down, would that make me a traitor to Dad? I didn't have the heart to answer. The extended family found out. Instant war. Some sided with Mum. He raised the child. That's what matters. Others called her a liar and a cheat. Group chats blew up. Family gatherings were cancelled. We were forced to see everyone at a cousin's birthday eventually. An uncle leaned over to Dad, whispered, "You're a better man than me." Dad forced a polite smile, eyes somewhere else. Mum's friends openly called him cold for moving out. Even some of my own friends muttered, "Men like him only care about bloodlines." I realized the pressure wasn't just from family, it was from the whole damn culture. And here's the thing, I caught myself joining in sometimes, softening how I told the story to friends, trimming out the worst parts so Mum didn't sound too bad. If anyone said, "She's a monster," I'd push back, "No, she's just human, she made a mistake." I didn't even realize I was protecting her reputation at the cost of my dad's. The unspoken rule seemed to be, men absorb the hit, women get understanding. Mum's mistake got reframed as a lapse in judgment. Dad's reaction got reframed as bitterness. And if you pointed out the double standard, people acted like you were attacking women as a whole. I grabbed coffee with a girlfriend I've known since high school. I told her the whole story, expecting her to be disgusted. Instead, she shrugged. "Well, he raised him, right? So what's the big deal?" When I said it's about consent to fatherhood, she rolled her eyes. Men always make it about money? No matter how I explained it, she just kept circling back to, "But your mum's a good person." I realized in real time how deep the bias runs. Women's feelings matter, men's losses get reframed as their duty. Cousins DM'd me saying, "We always wondered." Even Grandma said, "In my day, women stayed loyal." Dad felt doubly betrayed, not just about the cheating, but about being forced into fatherhood without a choice. I found out something else. Even with DNA proof, because my brother's still under 18 and studying, Dad legally has to keep paying support in our jurisdiction. He's trapped. And the kicker? If he refused to pay, they could garnish his wages, take his tax returns, even threaten jail. All for a kid the state now knew wasn't biologically his. I had no idea this is what actually goes on. I thought only women had to put up with this nonsense. The whole thing sounded like emotional blackmail, legal extortion with a smiley face sticker on it. One night, I heard shouting, my brother, voice shaking, demanding to know the truth. "Did you ever even love Dad, or was it always a lie?" Mum cried, said she loved us both, tried to hug him. He stepped back like she'd burned him and slammed the door. For days after, they barely spoke. I went with Dad to meet a lawyer, thinking there must be some loophole. The lawyer flipped through papers, said even with DNA proof, he's on the hook until my brother finishes school. Dad asked, "So if I died tomorrow, she'd still get my pension?" The lawyer didn't even blink. Yes. I watched Dad's fists clench under the table, but he stayed calm. Decades of his life to a lie, and still financially shackled to it. My brother was wrecked. He went quiet, avoided Mum entirely. I caught him drinking alone in the garage. He said he felt like he's not even part of the family anymore. Said he doesn't know who he is. I didn't know what to say. How do you tell your sibling they're the product of an affair? Weeks later, he knocked on my door late at night. I'm the reason Dad left. I tried to reassure him, but he shook his head. If I didn't exist, none of this would have happened. I sat there in silence. No smart answer, no feminist quote that makes this okay. He started asking questions I couldn't answer. Do I even get to call him Dad now? If I find the other guy, do I have to call him Dad? I wanted to tell him love makes a family, but the words stuck in my throat. It felt too much like the lies Mum had been telling for 2 decades. I watched Dad pack a bag. He moved into a small apartment. He's still paying for the house, still paying for my brother, still polite when they talk, but he's hollowed out. He calls me once a week, voice tired, asks if I'm okay. Never talks about himself. I've always preached paternity tests are for insecure men. But now I'm watching a good, committed man lose half his life to a lie, and he's punished for even thinking about walking away. If he leaves, he's abandoning his child. If he stays, he's living with a woman who lied for decades. No winning move. I started remembering every argument I ever had online about deadbeat dads. Every time I said, DNA doesn't matter, realized I was always imagining men who cheated and ran, never once thought about men who were faithful, trapped in someone else's mess. Mum kept trying to spin it, said, it doesn't change who he is. Kept inviting Dad to dinner like nothing happened. When he didn't show, she played the victim. I guess he never really loved us. I wanted to scream at her, but she's still my mum, and I hate that loyalty makes me complicit. Even my girlfriends were split. Some said, your dad should be the bigger person, the child's innocent. Others said, your mum's trash, she knew. Nobody talked about how the system's rigged so men can't even walk away without being destroyed financially and socially. Even then, I caught myself thinking, maybe that's a good thing? If men could just leave without consequences, wouldn't more of them do it? Years of being told men always run had wired me to see guardrails as necessary. But sitting there, watching my dad pay for a lie, I started wondering if those guardrails were just cages with nicer branding. Weeks turned into months. Dad stopped coming to birthdays. My brother didn't smile anymore. Mum threw herself into charity work like she was atoning, but never actually apologized properly. Just kept saying, let's move forward, as if the past didn't blow up the whole present. Late one night, I was scrolling and saw a post from a guy ranting about how marriage is a scam for men. Normally, I'd roll my eyes. This time, I read every word. Thought about Dad sleeping in that tiny apartment he's still paying for while Mum lives in the house she lied to keep. Thought about my brother, wondering who he really is. Thought about my family splitting into two camps overnight. And I got it. I sat in bed that night thinking about every smug reply I'd ever typed to some random man online. The way I'd mocked guys for wanting paternity tests, called them insecure. Never once stopped to think how it feels to love a child your whole life, only to be told it's not yours, and then be punished for leaving. I heard Mum on the phone one night. He'll come around. Men always do. Something in me snapped. Realized some women bank on the idea men's loyalty is unbreakable. I walked into the kitchen the next day and told her flatly, "You don't deserve him." She didn't even flinch, just said, "You'll understand when you have kids." The arrogance of it hit me harder than the affair details, like she still believed she'd done the noble thing and everyone else was just too immature to see it. For the first time in my life, I get it. Next family dinner, someone joked about me settling down soon. I laughed and said, maybe I'll just stay single. Seems safer. Dad smirked for the first time in months. It's not much, but it's something. When you finally realize some men give up on marriage because it's a loaded gun pointed at their head the whole time. Did I help make things worse?